Brother lads, welcome back to Kossi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kossi. Welcome back to a brand new video. We're going to be diving into Arsenal and the comments of Mudryk about the January transfer opportunity. If it arises, he says he will not be turning down Arsenal Football Club. If Arsenal try to sign him in January, he will be signing for us. Huge update, big transfer boost. But of course, he also says that he's not the only party involved in this deal. So Arsenal have to make sure that they do have the consent of Shakhtar Donetsk, but they already have the consent of the player. I mean, what a comment at this point in time. But also, we're talking about the Athletic and the update on the PSV game and the Europa League game. It looks like the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Europa League games will be untouched and unaffected by the celebrations and the tributes and respects to the Queen. So UEFA Europa League continues, UEFA Champions League continues, but the Premier League will not be played. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like I said yesterday, if all football is going to be halted, it makes a lot of sense. But if just a fraction of football is going to be halted, then it really doesn't make sense, now. It really doesn't make any sense. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the podcast as well. And in the comment section, Mudryk or Mykhaylo Mudryk. I don't know how you pronounce this name. Is it Mykhaylo Mudryk or is it Mykhaylo Mudryk? How do you pronounce the name? Let me know in the comment section below. I have a community that is so good at detail. Someone yesterday told me how to pronounce Mykhaylo. I think it's told me it's called Mykhaylo, right? Mykhaylo, not Mykhaylo. So it's Mykhaylo. I love it. I just love this community. Just someone just correcting you because they feel you're going wrong. So just give me the true pronunciation, the correct pronunciation of this Ukrainian name. Is it Mykhaylo Mudryk or Mykhaylo Mudryk? I mean, let me know in the comments below. But let us start off with the PSV game that was also set to be called off. Now, according to the Athletic, the Metropolitan Police have told Arsenal that if they wish to continue, if they wish to go ahead with their preparations for the PSV game, if Arsenal wish to hold the PSV game that is on Thursday in London at the Emirates Stadium, they will not stand in their way. The game should go ahead as planned. That is if Arsenal take the decision to carry on. Now, this is the dilemma. The FA have said football is halted, and every EFL competitions have been halted as well, plus the Premier League. Arsenal is certainly under the FA, and Arsenal is certainly under the Premier League. But this is a big dilemma. What do we do with UEFA competitions? What's going to happen with UEFA competitions, especially games that are going to be played at home in the UK, at home in London? If Arsenal is going to be allowed to press on with the PSV game, it doesn't make any sense. Let us play the Premier League. Let us enjoy the Premier League. Let us not waste our money buying these subscriptions for a month, and then they are going for free because after we have a useless international break in there. Anyway, so I want to say this. Arsenal will go ahead with the PSV game according to the Metropolitan Police. They're not going to stand in our way. They will not try to hold us. There will be enough protection. There will be enough security for the fans, both PSV and Arsenal fans. And if Arsenal decide the game is going to continue, the game is going to take place, then that will be the case. So UEFA competitions at the moment look like they will not be affected because they should not be affected in any way. If you have Sheriff Tiraspol against Man United, I think the game should continue. If you have PSV against Arsenal, those games should continue. Yes, look, for me, paying tributes can go on with and without football. We're going to have black armbands. We're going to have standing ovations. We're going to have moments of silence. We're going to have this the national anthem sung 10 times if you want during the 90 minutes. We can have anything be done for the Queen as we pay our respects and also press on with the game. So many of you have been asking me because what's going to happen with Europa League and UEFA Champions League. Do not worry. your subscriptions for Europa League and the UEFA Champions League are still valid. The competitions are likely to go on. The competitions are likely to go ahead. The only problem and the only scare is games involving Premier League clubs and also clubs from countries like Scotland could actually be postponed and rescheduled. Now, UEFA at the moment is not planning on that. Remember, clubs from the UK and actually clubs from the UK and the Premier League are not the only ones in the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League. You have you have clubs from Slovenia, Slovakia, Ukraine, and all these other countries. So it will be quite embarrassing if UEFA decide to hold a whole match day because the Queen passed on. It would be quite embarrassing, and it would lack any logic for me in it. And I think it just doesn't make any sense to postpone fixtures while have the World Cup mid-season. It doesn't make any sense, and that is me finally coming out, being very open and speaking my mind. Now, moving on to Mykhaylo Mudryk and the transfer post and the comments he has made about moving to Arsenal and the Premier League. Very interesting. He has actually said, I think every guy's dream is about playing in the Premier League. Arsenal are a very good team. They have a very good manager. I like the way they play. From my side, I can't say no to Arsenal in January, but it's not only in my side. Now, he was speaking to the Golazo podcast, CBS Sport, and he was asked about what happened really, before the end of the transfer window, and does he expect Arsenal to come back in January? And if Arsenal came back in January, would he keep his feet tight at Shakhtar Donetsk, or would he actually decide to join the Premier League? And this is what he said: every guy wants to play in the Premier League. For me, Arsenal is a good team. They have a good manager. I like the way they play. I cannot say no to Arsenal in January. Now, just to remind you of what happened in the summer, in the last days of the summer, according to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal did go in for Mykhaylo Mudryk. We made our bid around £30 million, or 30 million euros actually. That is what we did together with Brentford. But both bids were actually turned down. Now, Shakhtar Donetsk didn't turn down these bids because they were 100% wanting more money, but they were 100% praying that the window closes before Mykhaylo Mudryk leaves Ukraine. So he's a player they look at as one of their star men. He's a player they look at as a very important project, as a very important prospect and part of the team. Look, I've seen them play against against RB Leipzig in the UEFA Champions League, and he was an absolute star. He's got that kind of Jack Grealish vibe around him. Like he loves picking up the ball, whether in deeper areas or in advanced areas, wide off the pitch, and he's gonna dribble and drive at opponents, bring them as close as the penalty area, and then when it gets to the penalty area, I think that is the most exciting part of his game, because you don't know what he's gonna do. Is it gonna lay it back? Is he going to go for goal himself? Or literally, you cannot anticipate his game. You cannot predict his game. And look, he's only 21 years of age. He's just gonna get better. So in the summer, Arsenal wanted a winger. We know that much. We know that much is true. According to the likes of Freddie Paxton, according to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal were trying to sign a winger, a mystery winger after all. We were not very sure what was the name. Now, according to Romano, the priority was Pedro Neto, but the reason as to why Arsenal didn't go for Pedro Neto was Wolverhampton Wanderers decided that any club that wanted to sign Pedro Neto would have to part with £50 million. Arsenal felt like that was too much for Pedro Neto, and it was quite out of our budget because we had already spent almost £115 million already in the summer. And remember, Arsenal selling our players, Arsenal moving on our players was not giving us any more, any money. When we were not earning any, any returns on all the sales we were making. You look at the likes of Torreira, not really big money. Hector Bellerin's contract was terminated. Lacazette left on a free. So because we were not, we were not earning through sales, and we were spending hundreds of millions. The FFP rules and all these other rules were actually going to catch up with us. So I think, for me, this is my opinion, and this is what I think happened. Arsenal had around 30 million euros in last summer to spend. I think the remaining balance in our account was 30 million euros. So we had to decide: do you get a winger or do you get a defensive midfielder, and a central midfielder? And Mikel Arteta and Edu sat down and agreed we'll go and get a winger, because in midfield we have a few options. 2 weeks inside the season, El Neni and Thomas Partey pick up long-term injuries each, and the transfer strategy changes from Arsenal going for a winger solely now to Arsenal now debating: do we go for a defensive midfielder? Do we go for another holding midfielder? Or do we go for a winger still? So, in the last days of the window, Arsenal were trying to get one deal over the line, and eventually we failed to get any. So, Mykhaylo Mudryk, Arsenal did agree personal terms with the guy. Arsenal did agree personal terms with Mykhaylo Mudryk. Just like he's put it here, he cannot turn down Arsenal. And remember, there was no time for us to talk about everything in detail. So it was all about Arsenal drafting a contract, and Mykhaylo Mudryk had agreed the terms of the contract. However, Shakhtar Donetsk said no one will sign Mudryk for less than 50 million euros. And in my opinion, 50 million euros for Mykhaylo Mudryk was more of a stumbling block. It was more of a way to make sure that it doesn't walk away. It was more of a way to make sure that they can retain him and they can retain his services. And they really, really did very well. I looked at that performance against RB Leipzig, and in my opinion, I went, in my mind, I went, Shakhtar Donetsk keeping Mykhaylo Mudryk is the best bit of business they've done this summer. Very important player for them, and it's gonna be a star man. If they're gonna have any chances of making it through that UEFA Champions League group, I don't know which other clubs they have in there, but it is going to be very key. It's absolutely going to be very key that they have Mykhaylo Mudryk. So let's talk about January, and let's talk about the fact that the player will not refuse, or will not turn down Arsenal in January. Can Shakhtar Donetsk again turn down money, turn down bids for Mykhaylo Mudryk in January? Now, one thing I'm very certain of, and this absolutely baffles me, is I won't be surprised if Arsenal don't go back for Mykhaylo Mudryk ever in our lives. But I think this is quite different. This is quite different from the Houssem Howard situation. I think Mykhaylo Mudryk is a well-scouted talent. Mykhaylo Mudryk is a well-scouted player. And Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, Edu, and everyone at the club appreciates the talent and appreciates the young lad. So that is maybe one reason where I would. That is one of the reasons that I would go for, that we'll actually go back for Mykhaylo Mudryk. Probably not in January, because in January Arsenal don't often have that huge budget to work with, and for me, the fact that the fact that Shakhtar have said we are not selling him, this summer, he's just gonna get better. I don't think they will accept anything below 50 million euros or 45 million euros in January. So the question: will Arsenal go back for Mykhaylo Mudryk in January? My opinion: we will try. Arsenal will try to go back for the player in January. You look at that squad; we lack the squad depth. It's not entirely poor, but it is entirely bad for us to say Marquinhos is going to be the guy providing us with the squad depth to Martinelli and Saka's positions. It is entirely poor planning, and it's entirely poor business. And I also think it's gonna be determined by the World Cup. I just have a feeling it will be determined by the World Cup. It's gonna be a lot of transfer talk during the World Cup, and make sure you subscribe to Costa the podcast, and just make sure you're locked in, because there's gonna be a lot of transfer talk during the World Cup. We'll have a lot of rumors. We have a lot of prospects, and a lot of time for clubs to do business. So, if Arsenal are really impressed with Mykhaylo Mudryk throughout the season, I highly anticipate we will place some money on the table in January just to work on our squad depth. And also, I think by January you have a lot of your a bigger part of the season has actually drawn itself clear. You now know whether you want to win the Europa League or you still can't win the Europa League. We will know whether Arsenal can still make it to the top 4. And if we can still make it to the top 4, if we can still win the Europa League or even the FA Cup and some more of these competitions, that is when you need to recruit 1 or 2 more players. The midfield is going to be demanding, but with Thomas Partey and Mohamed Elneny highly likely to be back by January, I think the midfield can't wait until next summer. But the winger situation will not be one to wait. We will need more goals. We will need more creativity, and the likes of Martinelli, the likes of Saka will need some squad rotation. I highly anticipate England will be riding on players like Saka in the World Cup, and I highly still anticipate that in those very hot temperatures, Saka will be exhausted, and he will be playing as many minutes as there is for England. And I still think, however much I think Spain will win the World Cup, England will make it far. Probably, they will make. I think they will make it far to, I don't know, probably the quarterfinals or even the semifinals. They can make it to the semifinals, England, and they will be dumped out by a certain probably Belgium or Argentina, and then finals. Spain win the World Cup. So Mykhaylo Mudryk for me in January, this is a must signing. Mykhaylo has already talked about the need for squad depth and the need for more quality. I think Mykhaylo Mudryk gives us that. He's in that age bracket where, and we'll talk about this live when I come live, and I'll get your opinions. But he's in that age bracket where 21, high resale value. If he doesn't work out for 45 million euros, if he doesn't work out, he can go to any other club. You can even send him out on loan for a few seasons, and then he comes back as a better player. For me, this is the signing Arsenal need to do in January. And if we can make this one happen, it will be very similar to the Dejan Kulusevski signing. So I'm going to be singing Mykhaylo Mudryk throughout this period until January, and we'll try to anticipate whether Arsenal will sign this guy. But very interesting comments from Mykhaylo Mudryk. He wants to play in the Premier League. He wants to play for Arsenal. He cannot turn down Arsenal. For me, that is the mentality you want. And that is what Mikel Arteta has demanded from new signings and new players. You have to be 100% committed to the project. You must be. You must look at this Arsenal team as attractive, and also you must understand where we are going in the light of where we've come from. And for me, it's just fair. It's just fair to Mikel Arteta, because he's brought this Arsenal team so far, and the Cronkies now cannot forsake. They cannot forsake the project. And I've not talked about the Cronkies for some time, but I think today in the video, it's probably one of the videos I might make today, we'll talk about the Cronkies and kind of some appreciation post, not one where I will be highly glad, but probably one where we will assess the Cronkies and decide whether they've done quite a good job in the past 2 windows. I think Mikel and Edu have certainly done a better job cleaning the squad, and also bringing in the players wanted and the players needed, but also raising the standards of the Cronkies is not something very, very easy. So I think the Cronkies should be evaluated. Are we sorry? Did we get it wrong? Or is it the pressure that has actually caused them to come around? Either way, we'll talk about the Cronkies, but here we have a positive boost with Mykhaylo Mudryk. as he wants to join Arsenal in January. Will Arsenal make the move? Will we have the budget? All that remains to be seen. Follow me on Instagram, Kosi_19, and on Twitter, Kosi Arsenal. I'll see you very, very soon.